Good morning, good afternoon. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. This is to a radio inside Liberia. Today, inside Liberia, we are here to discuss three important issues. Those issues are one, the book published by some Liberians and about the president of Liberia, his wife. That's an issue we want to throw light on this morning, and we also want to look at the Supreme Court decision to imprison Brani Samukai. We don't know how far that decision has gone, whether Brani Samukai was arrested or whether he's in Liberia or he's in jail. I don't think there's any public information coming from the government as to what that decision is. And lastly, we want to look at the 29 persons that died. The government did issue an investigation. What is happening is a investigation coming to a conclusion. The government also has not spoken, so we just thought to throw light on these three things today. Wherever you are, we ask you to join us. This is Two-Way Radio, and welcome to our morning broadcast. As I said, we want to look at the we want to look at the book, the All Talk About book. Okay, the book is about Mr. President, that is the president of Liberia, George Manuel Weah, the legend. Right, and this book, chapter 13, has been an issue, has been a matter of discussion. The book, chapter 13, focused on two characters. That is the first lady of Liberia, Liberian women. That's the three characters. That's the first lady of Liberia, Liberian women, and then the president. What is all about these three characters in chapter 13? Okay, the book is titled George Weah, the Dream, the Legend, the Rise to Power, the Journey of an Enigmatic Leader. Chapter 13 is an issue. And when we say in issue means that's what is widely being discussed. What's the impact of this book on Liberians? What's the impact of this book on the First Lady? What's the impact of this book on the President of Liberia? Chapter 13 is more like talking about George Weah's own social life, and that is the writers or the publishers are revealing information that the president has disclosed to them. And that's the book is all about. It's in quotation, so we assume that the writer got permission from the president or may have interviewed the president or may have had some journalistic connection with the president for which these quotations were made in the book. So the book is revealing that Liberia's president, George Weah, has had several affairs with women, and that his decision to marry the first lady was based on her goodness, her social goodness. I'm not going to go into some of the worst news, okay? And so, what is the impact of this chapter 13 of the book George Weah, The Dream, the Legend, the Rise to Power, the Journey of an Enigmatic Leader? First and foremost, we feel that the book should be an issue of attention because it concerns Liberia's leader. It concerns the first lady. It concerns Liberian women. So, Liberian or those who are interested in moving the country forward in the direction of discussing matters that concern the nation. The first group of people we want to talk about is the national legislature. This could have been in the United States. Congress would have taken charge of this matter, especially when the country's leader's name is involved. It has a lot of implications. So the national legislature should be in the know or should be concerned about these kinds of public information. The writer was in Liberia. We understood that he was attempting to cross from across the border point and go into Sierra Leone and then probably leave West Africa. But we are told that the national government, through the immigration officers at the port of entry in Liberia, got the writer and brought him back to Monrovia, and he was a free man, and that the government issued a press statement that this young man was not being sought after. He's a free man. He has the right to live in Liberia. He has the right to leave anytime. So whether or not the government is taking this matter serious, is left first and foremost, we see it like a private life of the president. But if you think of it technically, it's not a private life. It borders Liberian women, it borders the first lady, it borders the president. So the national legislature, they are the first branch of government that should be checking on the executive, the activity of the executive. When a certain president is involved in these kind of matters, the national legislature, either they can discuss the matter in the private matter, in private sessions, and if necessary, they can warn the president, they can advise the president, they can tell the president what the nation course of activity should be when it comes to the function of the presidency. So not necessarily that the national legislature could have gotten involved and say, okay, we're going to summon the president, we're going to start an impeachment process. No, they rather would have set a course because they are there to checkmate the executive branch of government. First and foremost, why this publication? The writer is in Liberia. It said that the government want to hear from the writers or the publishers and to know the truth of the matter. Because the first thing is, if you don't start an investigation, that means sleeping don't lie. Everybody, okay, we have heard it, we have read it, okay, it just still that way. But what happens to the country's image? What happens to the presidency? You know, if this is a private person, we wouldn't be discussing these matters. But this is the president. Imagine Lewinsky's case in the United States. That became a global discussion. So Liberia is not an exception when it comes to governance. People look at good governance. People look at issues that affect the national agenda. How do people think Liberia is going to be? How do diplomats around Liberia think about Liberia? So when these issues come in the media, what is important is to see how government handle it. Okay, the government issued a press statement, not even discussing the matter. The president has a press secretary, and we think issues like these should be handled by the president. Silent means consent. So the executive branch of government, besides the Minister of Information, which I think they wouldn't go in the detail of these matters, they did what they could do, issued a press statement surrounding this individual leaving the country, attempting to leave the country, and he being a free man. Of course, the Constitution allows freedom of speech and of the press. And so the individual wrote what he thought, what we believed he would have been, because nobody in a sound mind would have written this kind of information. But being what it is, we don't know whether the president ever consented, because if you're writing a book, the title of the book itself suggests that the president may have authorized his biographic to be written, or may have authorized certain information released. Hence, the writers or the publishers would have had a lengthy interview with the president. We have followed social media discussion. We heard that the one of somebody's post that we read was that the writers uh, were seeking audience with the president, but we didn't know whether that actually happened. Now, the writers themselves have obligation to do. You publish a book, there is so much noise about it. You need to also provide clarity. Did the president actually speak to you? You know, provide information to the public. You decided to sell the book not just to make money, but if you wrote about a country's leader, you are under obligation where public views come about, discussions are going on. The publishers or the writers need to provide comment as to address those issues that are coming out of the book, out of those issues from the book that is becoming of national attention, meaning discussion. So the Liberian community needs to hear from the publishers, needs to or hear from the writers, and the Liberian community needs to hear from the president, needs to know whether or not the sitting president of Liberia, did authorize these individuals to write about his dreams. Say he's a legend. He is somebody who is like, okay, the writer said, oh, he's difficult to be understood. How is this guy? The book seems to be like discussing the mystery of his coming to the political scene, becoming president of Liberia. So, but chapter 30 is a matter of concern. And we think the president needs to provide clarity. His press secretary should be, or maybe, I don't know whether they have done that, but they needed to sit with the president and say, Mr. President, this is an image damaging information. We need to hear from you. We need to say something. I'm your press secretary. I remember when I was sitting as press and public affairs director at the National Legislature, and George Due, then Speaker of the National Legislative Assembly, they traveled to Europe, and there was issue concerning Liberian women. He has been invited to a friend. A friend invited him to his house, and they got there, and there was this video, and they all watched it. And when George Well returned to Liberia, it was had to do with some Liberian women and with some dogs or something like that. It became a matter of concern. The nation became concerned, and and so when this thing came about, I have to sit with the late speaker now, George Due, and say, hey, this is a matter of, it has gotten the attention of Liberian women. It's getting the attention of the nation. So you have to address yourself to this kind of matter. And that's what communication officers, especially public relation officers, they should always be in the business of, sit with the leader. The position you occupied as a press secretary, you have an obligation. You are a gatekeeper, and by that, you need to always provide information. Whether you're going to fine-tune information, whether you're going to be protecting the image of the president, you must do that. Like in this case, the press secretary or the communication officers at the executive mansion should have, if not yet, sit with the president. So this is it. Discuss the matters behind closed door and pick up those pieces that are good for public information. But in the Liberian context nowadays, to say, okay, let's sleeping door lie. The book is being published, it's going to be out there for a long time. And so when the issues are coming out of the book for discussions, there are Liberians, whether they ask the president directly, whether the media will put a microphone to the president's mouth on this issue one day or not, well, it's an issue for discussion. So we thought to throw the light on the important issue. Now, the character, as I said earlier, the first lady, what happened to the first lady? I feel the first lady has a very unique character. And from her demeanor, we can see that she's a woman who conducting herself in a difficult situation. And everyone can see her, and we know Claudia. I don't know her personally, but from a public appearance, we can see that she's someone who has built her character for years. And this is why we think sometimes clarification is important, because she's, in my view, she's a unique lady. And but sometimes when these embarrassing situations come about, we know, we can assume that behind the scene, she might be angry, she might be annoyed with her husband, because this is a book that is like saying he revealed this information. So some of the embarrassment must be a way of clarity. And the way you clarify information, you protect her. We saw people trying to have press conferences to protect her character. The book wasn't that much damaging, in my view, damaging to the first lady. It was more like, why did I marry this woman? I married her because she has some good qualities over Liberian women that I've had some affairs with before, that I've had some relationship with before. So because of her uniqueness over Liberian women, that's why I decided to get this woman, to marry her. All right. So in the sense of the publication, chapter 13, we see Liberian women being denigrated, not the first lady, in my view. So providing clarity, that is why the national legislature, civil society organizations, the media institutions, Liberia is a country that is being governed, a democratic nation, a nation where the people need to be informed. The Constitution say the people need to be informed. Issue concerning the president's image. Uh, we all need to know what is happening in that part of the world. Africa, West Africa. The president is to be among his peers. When he goes to a West African meeting, when you go at the United Nations, this image should be seen as, okay, this is one of the found sons of Liberia. So when there is dirt on the president, someone needs to clean it up. And those to clean it up is the press secretary, the communication people around the president. They need to clean the image, not just for Liberians, but for the international world, because he's heading a nation, one of the committees of nations. Look at the entire globe. Liberia is being out there. Liberia has been involved in helping other nations to get independent. So Liberia is not just one of the underdogs countries. Liberia is one of the outstanding nations of the world, so to speak. They talk about United Nations, ECOWAS, the OAU. Liberia has been a foundational builder. So we can't just come at this stage of its national existence to think that things that this come about, people should just bury it. The image of the country is a matter for the 6 years. George Weah is in charge, so his being should be a matter of concern. So this is where we think this issue should always be discussed. Now, what happened to Liberian women? We have heard that the gender ministry had a press conference and trying to, the conference of the gender ministry was in support of protection, support of the first lady. But we think that the worst of this chapter 13 is negatively reflecting Liberian women. And we think Liberian women are unique in their own creation. If for any reason someone like the president's own association and relationship was with a particular situation, those social interactions should not be a matter of creating, inexperienced explanation of trying to denigrate the good Liberian women. We think Liberian women are good people. We think they are unique. And this is not a situation where you can create a dark cloud on Liberian women. If you took a decision to marry a Jamaican, that should in no way denigrate Liberian women. There are Liberian women took their time in life. There's a lot of cultural heritage of that country, and we can attribute that to our Liberian women. They are good people. They are unique. They are experienced kind of people. Their social interactions are well known, and people around the world have admired them. So we don't think this book or the publishers or those who release information are all about, where we stand when we discussing, the president's own decisions to marry a Jamaican. It's his right to marry whoever he desires. He's an individual. He has his rights and privileges as a citizen of that nation, and as a leader. Before coming to leadership, he had his own desire as to who he needed to marry. But after doing that, he cannot. And I don't think that's what he has done. But then, since the book came out, he needs to provide a clarity as to whether or not he actually get permission for the publication of this book. Because what is in chapter 13 is not good for his image, it's not good for Liberian women. And if it said he said it, it's being quoted as saying he said these words, and I think there's a need for the president to provide clarity. That's the first issue we have this morning. Clarity must be provided. Well, until then, we are keeping eyes on this matter, and we might speak about it again because it brought us Liberia. Okay, and the second issue we want to discuss is what Brownie Samukai. We have been discussing these matters, and we just want to follow up. Normally, in Liberian media settings, sometimes issues come out and people discuss it like a wildfire, and after a few times, it dies down. What is happening with this? For the purpose of our information, Brandon Samukai was one of those senatorial candidates for a county in Liberia, and that is Lufa County. He was vetted and qualified, and he contested election. Brandon Samukai, the people of Lufa County used their constitutional right assigned them, and they voted in Brandon Samukai as their senator. Brandon Samukai being a property of the national legislature, specifically the Senate. The Constitution has date, although date has passed, and then the senator has not been certificated, neither has he been inducted into office as senator for the people of Lufa County. So recently, there was an order that he be arrested and be thrown behind bars. We do not know what has happened to that. Is Brandon Samukai behind bars? Is he the free man? Is he in hiding? These are information we think the public need to be informed about. Again, there should be information people at the national legislature. You're not going to be discussing the probably the intricacies of the workings of the Supreme Court, but this is a public information. So we think the judiciary should be providing information to the Liberian people. Well, we issue an arrest order for Brandon Samukai. He has not been arrested. He's in hiding. We can't get to him. And then what is happening to that decision? All right. You see, as the Supreme Court paused that decision, whatever the case is, we expect that the government will be able to provide information on Brandon Samukai. Where is he right now? Is he in hiding? Is he a free man? Is he behind bars? I don't think the public is informed. I don't think our international partners around Liberia who are monitoring the governance process are informed. And so we just thought to throw that in. We also keeping eyes on that issue. That is Brandon Samukai's situation. The Liberian Senate, we said the last time, we thought the Liberian Senate would have taken charge of this matter. When someone is elected as senator, he becomes it's like you traveling from here, to a city, and then you enter the territorial boundary of the city. The city is under obligation to say where you are, whatever happens to you, what your situation is, they need to know. So in this way, we think the Liberian Senate should be discussing this matter. It has to do with the Constitution. Once again, the Constitution is being breached because the Constitution said there must be elections this time, and within a certain time, you must announce the election result. And then at a certain time, you must certificate. At a certain time, there must be the person must be allowed to be inducted into office. All those dates are passed. So what's happened with the Constitution? Now we look at the supremacy of the Constitution and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. All right, the Supreme Court cannot change the date. Neither can their action affect the date. If that happens, something is wrong somewhere. So the senators themselves are sitting quiet, everybody quiet on these matters. You're going to have election again. The general election is coming about. Why, if somebody's situation occur, what's going to happen? That's why The balance of power is always important. The judiciary, the legislative branch, and the executive branch of government. Now, in this case, I would think the executive branch of government need to exercise power. They said in political science, we say power shift to the center, to the left, or power has shifted to the executive branch, we say power shift to the legislature or the judiciary. Meaning when the governance process is being observed to be weighing, let's say there's dominance on the part of the legislative branch. If the legislative branch is taking charge of these matters, discussing and resolving those matters, we say power is with the legislative branch of government. In the absence of that, we say that's what we say. This is the lukewarm government. No one is checking on one another. Everybody is just like, well, everybody at a standstill. Yeah, okay, we just here. Let's get our salary. We just be playing around here and to see what happens. But when these matters come about and the forcefulness of the government in dealing with it, people see the government to be very strong. That's why when you have individuals, Liberians, when they are electing individuals, elect individuals who will stand out for the Constitution, who will stand out for your right, who will stand out to protect the image of the country. Not people who will just, okay, you know what, okay, Liberian people just talk when they get tired, okay, that's how it will die down. Guess what? When it dies down in that way, the country is seen as a very weak government. But when you have the reason for balance of power, it's not hatred. People may see it as hatred. It's not hatred. If you ask George Weah to provide clarity on issues, it borders governance. It's not about because you hate George Weah, like we discussed in these matters. It doesn't mean that I hate Cloud Weah, I hate George Weah, or I hate Liberian women. These are matters. There's a social responsibility on people who are educated, people who are in the know to help inform other Liberians. That's a social obligation that everybody should have. Now, when you extend to state power or to the stage of governance, you have an obligation. More so, you enjoy the resources of the country, the people surrounding their rights to you. You are on an obligation to inform them, to educate them, to tell them what is happening. So then we say to balance power is the obligation of the judicial branch of government, the legislative branch of government, and the executive branch of government. The executive should be checking on the legislative branch of government. Like, for example, the executive send a budget to the national legislature, right? The House of Representatives just passed the budget that without even going into it. The president being a strong, he should have been latching at those people. Say, look, you know what? I sent you a draft budget, and the purpose for that was not just to pass it, not to agree with everything. There might have been some disagreement with some budgetary lines of ministry and agencies. But if you didn't do so, the power, balance of power should look at the executive branch and say, no, you're not doing your job. It doesn't mean you hate the buffer chimo or you hate members in there, but it's to tell Liberian we are working. But if we send it to you, you pass it, and we get it back. So it's like one so say all. Judiciary don't tell executive branch, nobody say a word, everybody go on just like that. There were issues always come about. All right, so that's one issue of Brandon Samka. We're still waiting to hear how that's going to end. So we keep eyes on that matter continuously. Okay, and so the last issue we have on our discussion today is the 29 Liberians that died at the crusade. May the souls and of those persons rest in peace. It's saddened. People were born. When you imagine some of the struggles of people growing up, and imagine a current situation, 29 persons just died, just one night, just in an hour time at a crusade. People left their homes to attend a church service, and for whatever reason, there was a stampede and 29 persons died. What happened? I think this is a matter of concern, and we think every Liberian are curious to know what has happened. Liberia, there's this situation where things happen and people just keep quiet on it. President come out, okay, you know what, we are launching investigation, and there's never a report. It's bad. Three persons got missing, three young men got missing. And since then, nothing has happened. No report. Investigation be going on. Those persons, nobody know what has happened to them. 29 persons died. It's not just, okay, there was a stampede. Other people say, you know what, Zogos came in and then they put your people in. That's how some people fell and then people died. It's not sufficient for a country. 29 human beings. Imagine 29 human beings dying just in a situation. That shouldn't be a matter of just, okay, you know what, we just will talk about it and just go that way. I remember another time there was, I think, I don't know, 30 children, left in a fire in that very country. I'm not too sure the figure right now, but they got burned in a fire situation. Another investigation, right? Investigation must always be where records are kept, because a very serious government tomorrow will want to follow up on some of these things, and people could be accused. Most so, some of us who are watching international news every time, we know what is happening around West Africa. There's a terroristic thing all around the world, especially in West Africa right now is a focus. So when these things are happening, people are more concerned. Sometimes some of those things may not be what you're thinking about. So, but until there's a full investigation and a report released, Liberian can rest their mind. Why, if there's another time, another crusade, somebody say, okay, before crusade right now, the Minister of Justice issued a statement before crusade, there must be what is considered what they will consider as people seeking permit. We cannot infringe on the constitutional right of people to gather. That's another thing you should be watching out for. The national security are under obligation to protect the territorial domain of the country. So nobody need to tell you, say, we're gathering somewhere before you carry security there. You should have modus of operandi. How do you get involved in running your security affairs? If people are gathering, that's something that you should always know. Security, I'm not a security person, but I will assume that every gathering in the United States, here people gathering, so that you don't tell people. Even birthday party, you having birthday party, people have known what you're doing at your house. And certain time, you shouldn't be at certain point, you shouldn't be causing those of disturbing other people. Nuclear has its own police zone, I assume. So why were these people that night? So the government itself need to answer to some questions. And we got to understand these things when the reports are made. Maybe some police officers who were not on duty that night around the area could be the government who decided, okay, you know what, these people should have been around. They were not around. 29 persons died just in a single incident. It's a matter of concern. In America, one person died. It's a matter of the entire nation. So we're very much hoping that people will get involved. The investigation must be real. And there must be a report, not just investigation is said about, and that be it. So, Abraham, you're welcome. I'm not digging your t-shirt in a way, You're welcome, and this is a two-way radio. You've been away for some time, but again, we say, okay, good. We say, you're welcome. All right. But as I was saying, I'll give you some time. Time is almost fast spent, but I'll give you some further time to give us some update from your end. So these are matters that concern Liberians, and they shouldn't be, they have died, so it ends. No. To protect life and property is the sole responsibility of the Liberian government. How you do that? Liberia need to know your strategy, especially when there is an event. Some of us think that the government is responsible. There's a crusade. There's a huge number of gatherings, a huge number of Liberian gatherings somewhere. Where were you? If Zogos are around the country, you notice the current situation already. So when a group of Liberians are gathering, it should be a matter of concern. These people were not in their bedroom. They were in public sphere. So they were in public sphere. Where were you? I mean, somebody said, okay, we were not in the know. I don't think Liberian that crusade was being advertised. Social media is another thing every day. Everybody, I think that should be one of the places where maybe your security people get quick information. Except where maybe there's some other thing people going for laptop, phone, and all of this stuff. No, this is where public gatherings are taking place. They need not to inform you. As state security, you are responsible to provide protection for all Liberians, to protect life and property. That's the first and foremost obligation placed on the government. So right before your eyes, 29 person just died one day. It's like, okay, that story gone down now. They died. That's over. No, what happened? Were you able to identify the names of those persons? Do you have a list in the first place? Now that brings you another issue. The people that listen to Ghanaian. Ghanaian are putting on the strong measures to give ID cards to every Ghanaian. I think the deadline will soon be expiring. Ghanaians are complaining, but hey, the government of Ghana said before you get a SIM card, that means they will know you about data. They will get information about you. And I think it's rational. In America, yes, something happened to me. Where I said right now, the first thing, even if there was fire that got at me and I die and whatever, God forbid, the first thing that happens is my identity is known. It's in the people's system. They know where I am in a particular time of my existence. They know where I am. And I think this is another thing that Liberian government cannot do if they're very serious to do. So 29 persons died. What are you going to be doing? The investigation, how far is it going to go? So we're challenging the government of Liberia to do something. But they have promised to investigate the matter. They need to come up with a report. So these are 3 issues we want to discuss this morning, and that was Brandon Samuka's issue. We also think that's an issue that the government need to rest the matter. The people voted. Now, I said it before vote, there's acceptance of application, there is vetting, there's qualification, and when all those things go on, the people go stay online, they vote. At that stage, Liberians have decided the people's power is above the Supreme Court, is above the national government. The Constitution gives them that right. When their authority is exercised, that authority is above all powers. According to the Constitution, that means saying it, the Constitution is saying it. The people's power, their authority is above all powers. So when a group of Liberians vote, that power is being exercised is above. So Brandon Samuka, whether he was a thief, he was someone owing the soldiers money, and I don't even get this thing. Brandon Samuka has a job, right? He's going to be working. They're going to be paying him. So allow the man to work, seize his money. The senators have the right to take a decision. Brandon Samuka, you owe the soldier your pay, the 30,000 I will get for you, we'll send it towards that one that you're not going to get it. Simple. But collect Brandon Samuka, put him behind bar. Then what happened? The purpose of justice. Somebody will say, okay, you never had it right. Whatever the situation is, so we're keeping eyes on Brandon Samuka. We're keeping eyes on the 29 persons that died. The investigation is ongoing. Government have said it, and so we are watching for that. And lastly, we also look at the issue of the book Cloud We Are, George We Are, Liberian Women. So we also need to hear from the executive branch of government. The press secretary, I'm challenging you this morning, Mr. Man. You need to, all of you guys at the executive mansion, you need to come on. This has to do with governance. Some of you guys did not go through a cadet process to understand that governor, when in some position in government, you have an obligation to do certain things. So that because when you leave, we're going to be judging all of you guys. So the first thing is that, Mr. President, we need to know what is happening. We may not tell the story of, did you give the man right to publish a book? The first information we want to know. The judge will authorize these folks to write a book. If he did not, then we can say, okay, these guys were reckless, they were unprofessional. People started to make judgment on them. So once again, before we close up, we have Abraham has joined us. Abraham, welcome. How are you doing this morning? Hello, we'll give Abraham just a few seconds and to hear what probably you have to say. Okay, Ibn has left the show. Once again, we say thank you so much. This is Two-Way Radio. We've been here this morning looking at these three major issues. It has to do with the existence of a country, existence of a group of people on the planet Earth. So I gave you the opportunity. We all have for social responsibility to be discussing these matters in a way and a manner that will set that country on course. Liberia is about to go to another round of election, and they're going to be vetting another group of people. So how that's going to turn out will depends on what we all do. The governance process, the democratic process, we all should be cognizant and watching what is happening around Liberia. Once again, we say thank you for those of you who've been watching us. And for those of you who are watching, we also say thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you people this morning. This is Two-Way Radio inside Liberia. I'm James Johnson. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.